And we are live yet again, living to live another day. Really glad to be on with Anthony and Mark. Anthony, how the hell are you?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. I'm glad to finally to be on your show, man. You know, you made it when you made it to the Adam Post show.
You're on the Adam Post show, whether you like it or not. And so is Mark.
So is
Mark. Good to be with you too, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
And Mark, okay, so Anthony is the artist, Mark is the writer, and this isn't even their first book together.
Correct.
You guys are going back and going old school now. I met Anthony on the Wenger show, and that was a lot of fun. Wangcast is an awesome show.
It was, man.
And you know, Anthony, you were a lot of fun on there, and I never did get a chance to get you on for God's Hand, so I'm glad I got a chance to get you on to talk about your newest project. And we got Mark too.
100%.
But I also, you know, I know a lot of guys who create comics like to watch the show and watch the interviews. And John Malin did this great tweet I just came across right before the show. And it's such a good reminder for all of us when we're thinking about like, what kind of comics do we want to make? What kind of projects do we want to make? And, you know, me included, it's something I have to focus on, something we all have to focus on. So John says here, don't make a project for yourself and expect everyone to love your self-indulgence. Consider the largest audience possible, what you perceive people truly want from their entertainment in 2021, where that overlaps with your needs, and pour your soul into that. Hashtag Project Thundar. That's John's upcoming series, Project Thundar. He's been talking about it for, you know, at least a year. But he makes a really good point, you know, and it's something like back in the day when we were publishing comics to comic stores, one of the things we always would think about is, you know, what is going to get a comic store to buy this comic? You know, what title do we got to do? Should it be a number one? What genre would it be? You know, what's going to make them just buy that thing? And we published a lot of number one comics. We published a lot of low budget comics, some higher budget comics too. But it was always like, what's the most commercial thing we can do? And it's true. Like sometimes when we're making our own projects, they are a passion project. But John, you know, points that out well. Like, yeah, we got to remember someone's buying this to consume it. They may not be buying it to resell it like a store owner does, but they're buying it because it's what they're into. It's their sort of thing. So I really like that tweet, and it's something that you know, everybody kind of needs to see, and it's something I need to think about sometimes.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's right on the money. I mean, you know, we have to remember as creators, it's not always what we want to see; it's what the consumer wants to see.
I think that has been definitely. I think that as a creator, I think sometimes you can teach that, but I think if you're a natural creator, a natural storyteller, I think that's something that comes natural to you. I think because I've seen a lot of people not do that. It's funny because Comicsgate has kind of bled that even outside of storytelling. But me and Marcus had these conversations at times, and again, I have certain sensibilities. There's certain things that I like and certain things I don't like. But if I'm in the business of making product, or to steal, if I'm a hot dog salesman, right, I may not like sauerkraut, I may not like relish on my hot dog, but my customers do. So I have to supply that to them. I have to make sure that's there if that's what they want to eat, regardless of whether I eat it or not.
I like ketchup on hot dogs.
I do too. I like ketchup. I like almost everything. You know what I mean? But there are certain things I don't like. But the idea that what certain things that people want, you know, you got to give them what they want.
You got to give the people what they want. And
right.
And we all have a lot of different ideas of what to work on. We could work on a book like this, a book like that. You know, characters that like we're really stuck with us when we're kids. We're first getting into comics that we really loved, and we've got like stories we really want to tell. It's just good to be commercial about it and think about like, all right, you know, we're going to make sure we make money doing this damn thing. You know, we got to make sure this is not just a story, you know, just for me. You know, when Todd McFarlane did Spawn's a pretty good cross between Spider-Man and Batman. You know, so those are like the two other biggest selling books. So it's sort of, you can't get much more commercial than Spawn. So you think commercial when you're doing this stuff too. Now, Justice City Chronicles, you're in the sign up phase for this. So sign up lists are great. People get on the email list. The link is in the description. This way they can kind of get notified when this project launches. Now, is this related to God's Hand?
No. This
is
not
creatively. It's in the same. It's from the same company, but it's not in the same universe that we know of yet.
Okay.
This could be. This is the future story. This is far, far into the future, and who knows what hijinks in God's Hand could have caused some of the events in Justice City Chronicles. This is yet to be known.
All right, so we're not going to show direct ties. So what's Justice City Chronicles Volume 1 about?
Right. This is so fun. It's the crazy dynamics between him and I, because I am the artist, he is the writer on this. However, I love the talk, and he does not.
Don't worry about it. Mark is here to look good, and you and me get the job done.
He does. He makes me look good. Mark makes me look real good. He really does. He makes me look real good.
Yeah, Mark's
when I stand next to him, it's like one of those things when you bring your friends and they like a 5, they make you look like a 10. So I'm a 12. I'm a 12 over here. The tough crowd, man.
All right, so this is a basic thing. This is a basic thing that when people ask me, like, all right, Adam, what's the Mermaids about?
100%.
I stumble with that shit for a little while, but I will tell you what the Mermaids is about. The Mermaids is about this. A naive teacher joins a team of rebels determined to overthrow and kill an evil mermaid queen. That is the story about what it's about. It's simple. It's to the point. That said, it was 2 months after the campaign ended, and now it's in demand until I came up with that simple explanation.
100%.
So that's on me. I got to get that straight. But you've got a simple explanation. You got a simple explanation. It's Justice City Chronicles, a futuristic superhero tale of war, corruption, and the bonds of family.
See
that's
that?
Nice. That's nice.
He's a poet and didn't know it.
Well, I mean, I just read what was there. So a
100%.
futuristic superhero. So it's superheroes in the future.
Correct.
At war?
Okay, so we dabble with a war that's already happened.
Okay.
They're currently in a time of peace and probably moving into a new war.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where we pick up with Volume 1.
Okay. So you have a whole world.
Would you mind if I stepped in?
Yeah, jump the F in, baby.
Marcus, you wouldn't mind if I stepped in, would you, sir?
Oh, no. Feel free.
I'm a gentleman. I only go around masks. So, yeah, the beauty of the Justice City Chronicles is basically it's a futuristic world that is technologically similar to Dune in a way.
Okay.
Right. It's like a mix. I say it's a mix between like the technology and He-Man and Dune. Right. So there's these futuristic worlds. However, when you look at them, they have this archaic feel to them, this old Gothic kind of feel to them. So Justice City has this kind of, if you look at the city, it has this kind of Romanesque kind of feel to it. Right. But it has this futuristic Roman feel to it. That's part of the city right there. And then you have this academy, which we should go into, which is the Praetorians. And basically what this is after the war, Justice City became the protectors of the peace. And so one of their top heroes was held the title of Grand Praetorian, which is like the Captain America mantle. However, we delve more into that the mantle is more important than the man. So you never get that kind of like Steve Rogers, Captain America. You can never unmarry that thing, really. This way, we keep it that the mantle is what is important. That is the symbol. And so you have this Grand Praetorian, and from that Grand Praetorian, they begin the Praetorian Academy. And what they do is they go around and they get the most gifted kids, and they bring them here. And they augment their powers and they train them to be the elite peacekeepers. And then they rent them out to the territory, right? But only Justice City, only the Praetorian Academy can produce these types on the books can produce these type of soldiers, these type of warriors and whatnot. And so the story is about Nero, who is essentially this up and coming, young man who wants to be a Praetorian. And what you find out is that his father was the Grand Praetorian who started the school, and his older brother is going to inherit the title of Grand Praetorian. So he's kind of coming up in that shadow, and it's like, but he's highly capable. This story shows him going through the gauntlet and how he graduates to become a Praetorian in the Praetorian Guard. And basically we start to set up these relationships with the brothers, with the fathers. And what that bleeds into is again, what does it mean to be a hero? What does it mean to be a Praetorian? What does it mean to be a patriot? Right. And these are the things that are lined up, because you have the individuals who lost in the war. They're not happy about it, and they've been plotting their revenge, and so you get into all of this stuff, and that's what the setup. Like I say this, basically what we're doing is we are setting the table. We are bringing you to the buffet, and we are showing you everything. Here's the steak, here's the cheese, here's the hamburger, here's the cheesecake, here's all these things, right? And when you get to the end of the book, we're going to hand you the plate, because now it's time to eat. Now we're setting everything up for you. You know what I mean? So that you go on mine. I want the whole thing. I want the entire package of this thing, All right. So that's,
and it sounds like it's so it's pretty extensive. You're introduced into the futuristic world, which is kind of like a futuristic Rome type of look.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Which is cool. And the Praetorians are the heroes.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And they're kind of raised from birth to be heroes?
Correct. Well, they're the ones that they get when they're kids. They bring them to the academy and train them there.
Okay.
Imagine if the United States government went and snatched promising young athletes, promising, and just basically put them into a Navy SEALs academy from the time they were 5 and 6 years old, and just raised them. Kind of like Soldier with Kurt Russell. You follow what I'm saying? They take them from children and they basically raise them,
grab them,
and turn them into these warriors, these elite warriors, almost like a Spartan academy, I guess.
Are they able to turn them into heroes? They use the technology to give them superpowers or something like that, or
some of them are enhanced, kind of like a play on Captain America, like the Super Soldier.
Okay,
so you have some like that where they pick the best of the best genetically and do that, and then you have some that they bring in that already have these abilities.
And then they work on behalf of the government?
Yes. They work on behalf of Justice City.
Okay.
Justice City is essentially what America was after World War II. I mean, the Great War is symbolic for that. It harkens back to that idea. So Justice City becomes that role that the United States took over after World War II.
Now, the corruption part of this is that with the soldiers or the government or both, or
it's both.
Okay,
it's both. You know what I mean? I mean, because essentially, you part of what you're going to want to delving into, is that the Praetorians, and this is where this is one of the to me one of the grander themes that winds up coming out is that you have the Praetorians take an oath, right? But they take an oath to justice, to loyalty, to honor, right? And so it's the same thing as the military. They take an oath to the Constitution. They take an oath to this, not to a leader, not to a party, but to this. Well, what happens when, the institution to which you serve becomes corrupted, right? And then, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that as a Praetorian? And you are supposed to follow this code, but by following this code, you will have to possibly tear down the institution to which you were also tasked to protect. You know what I mean? And so it's this, what does this mean? What does it mean to be a hero when no one's applauding you? What does it mean to be a hero when no one's telling you great job? What does it mean when basically you are going to lose everything? What pushes you? What keeps you going? What is it?
It's interesting. Do you want to hit up let's hit up the trailer. Ready for trailerizing?
Trailerize, go.
All right, trailerize on. All audiences, baby.
I don't hear the sound.
No sound?
No sound.
I didn't share this for sound. All right.
I know. Malin had to school me on this when I was on his show. He had to show me how to do it.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty good with that, but I should be able to. All right, we'll do one more time. Sharing for sound. Yeah, I want to check out the trailer. It's approved for all audiences, so it must be good. All right, here we go. I like that idea. Let me know if we're sounded.
Yeah,
we good?
There we go.
Yeah.
We're good.
Cool. That was 1:56. It went really fast.
What'd you think, Marcus?
I thought that was good.
I was also the first time I went on. We had Marcus was still putting this together. We had like initially made a trailer, like a teaser, like we put out before everything else, and it was just kind of this motif. And oh yeah, definitely. We actually had yeah, it's definitely Frazetta. Frazetta is heavily inspired that. We had this trailer, and it was this smoke and this fire, and it kind of came in front of the Justice City logo, and then you could see the date, and then it went back. And I went on John's show, and he's like, "What is that, man?" And I got roasted.
Like, where's the trailer?
I got roasted for my trailer, man. So I was like, "We got to get a trailer together over here, man."
Oh, you didn't have a trailer?
Well, like I said, we had like a teaser trailer is what we had.
Okay.
Coming soon type of thing. And Marcus put together this trailer for us, and I think he did it.
Yeah, nice trailer, Marcus. I'll tell you, I think the best Ethan is doing the best trailers now. Ethan Van Sciver. He's just like 30-second trailers, right to the point, give you some cool images, and then I really like the Rainbow Brute one where he comes up with the line like, "You choke slam a unicorn and back this book right now." Like that. I think it's cool. I think in the next book that I do, I'll do like a 30-second trailer that's just like shortened to the point like that. Jaylee is saying hi. Very cool. Yeah, I think this is going to be great. And now what you have a special kind of deal where if people sign up, they're going to get an exclusive trading card with purchase for early sign up. Very cool.
We have a set of 6 cards that are going to be included in the perks, but this one here is exclusive to the sign up.
Cool.
We call it the zero card.
A zero card. You need a zero card.
Gotta have one.
Is this like that's like a core important card to the series?
No, not really.
Okay.
Could be.
No, I mean,
it could be, Adam.
It's a nice addition to the set, though.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I was going to say, Adam.
You're going to want that.
It sounds important. I'm just saying.
It does sound important.
Yeah. Might be important, just
now. God's Hand is also going to be available on this campaign, right? I was asking about that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, since we never had a chance to talk about God's Hand, let's talk about God's Hand a little bit too. This is your previous campaign, so people know that you actually have printed, delivered, and kept your promise on a campaign already.
Yes,
this
sir.
Great creative team from Wolfpack Comics, I believe it is.
Absolutely.
Correct. All right.
Another product from Wolfpack Comics.
Packing it hard.
Absolutely. If you'd like, the trailer is pretty good. It's only 1 minute and 30 seconds long.
All right, let's hit trailers. This is the God Hands trailer. It's the previous project. Cool.
At nightfall, a string of murders in New Orleans has been uncovered. These aren't your typical acts of violence. The victims bear an unknown supernatural mark. When the city's protector, Marie Laveau, is found murdered, a collective team of reformed sinners with supernatural powers, led by the immortal Jean Lafitte, are called in to solve the case. As they delve deeper into Marie's death, they begin to suspect the rise of the Black Queen, an entity that has been asleep for centuries. Now awakened, her evil threatens to free the ancient gods of chaos and cover the world in a cloak of darkness.
I smell human.
As her minions crawl out of the shadows and threaten to unleash horror upon the city, only Jean Lafitte and his team of hunters stand between the darkness and the total destruction of the city. All help now rests in a team simply known as God's Hand.
Cool.
So God's Hand, basically at the core of it is Jean Lafitte. Well, basically I was asked, somebody came to me and said, could you make a story about New Orleans with New Orleans legends in it? And I was like, yeah, man. So I pulled Jean Lafitte, who is a real pirate. Jean Lafitte fought with Andrew Jackson in the War of 1812 in the Battle of New Orleans. And there's a lot of places in New Orleans that are named after Jean Lafitte. And so I took him and I took Marie Laveau and I created this world. And so basically the book is you start out with Jean Lafitte, who's been exiled from New Orleans. He's been exiled for something called the Katrina incident. And he has a team of hunters and they're hunting. And you get introduced to them and then they get a phone call. It basically says, listen, Marie Laveau has been murdered. Her soul has been stolen and an ancient artifact is missing. And we want you to come in. We want to reinstate you for 48 hours. And you need to find Marie, what happened, and you need to find the book. And so it's about him coming back to the city and hunting down what happened to Marie. You find out that they were once lovers and whatnot. And you start to find out what happened during Katrina and how those events have essentially set up the events that he's dealing with currently. And that for him to kind of solve everything and put everything together, he'll have to face some of the sins of his past to get closure and to keep the city from falling into darkness.
Cool. Have you been getting a lot of nice feedback on this from people that got the book?
I have, man. And I love, and I really do. I love feedback. I really do. Because again, I'm about trying to, Marcus as well. I mean, both of us. I mean, that's why we did Wolfpack, and it's like whatever I can do to get better. You know what I mean? I don't want you to blow smoke up my ass and tell me, oh, it's great, but you tell me what worked for you, what didn't work for you. You know, and it's so I can course correct, so I can give you don't like sauerkraut, that's sweet, that's salt, you don't like it that way, tell me how you like it, what you want. You know what I mean? You don't like this type of, you want some of that Dijon mustard, let me know, I can get you some of that too.
People like her, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, he looks cool too. This is a great image.
Yeah, that came out really well, and it turned out to be a great cover. It's one of those things, I'm sure, Adam, it's like you have a great cover, and then it's like, shit, that means the next time I make another book, the cover has to be just as great, if not great.
And I thought you were going to say actually was you don't know which covers and which images are going to turn out great.
I don't.
Right? You get into it, you start producing it, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute.
That's what happened with this one.
Just worked perfectly.
That's what happened. That's what happened with this cover. I created that image. Yeah,
because
another image.
This image, that's a very commercial image. People would buy that for, T-shirts and whatnot,
Marcus, do you have a
posters,
shirt? Marcus,
not even understanding.
Marcus, what's that
what
on
they're
your
buying.
shirt? Oh man, it's beautiful. Look at that.
Marcus
Look at
bought
that.
it.
Look at that, Adam. Is that
Yeah, I mean,
beautiful?
Marcus is a sucker, though. You can sell Marcus anything. what I mean is, like potheads and cool people.
No,
that are
100%.
like,
100%.
girls and
100%.
potheads and crack smokers and all those cool
I love,
people.
I love crack smokers. They
No,
spend
this
money.
is a great, like included in that would be like the College of the Dead logo. Some of the images in College of the Dead came out.
No, that's what I'm saying. I know that. It's like, and I saying and that's what happened. I had another cover that was a traditional group shot. You know what I mean? There was the group, they were in dynamic poses and everything. And then I did this, and you're 100% right. I mean, as soon as I did it, my friend who helped me design the logo and stuff, who's not a comic book person, goes, dude, when you color that, I want it. I want to put it on a shirt.
Yeah.
And as soon as it was colored, he took it and went and made shirts out of it. And he was like, dude, here's one. He made one for himself, his kid, me, and my kid. And it was one of those things where it just became like, okay, well, everybody who's looking at this is what they want. So we're going to give them this.
Yeah. And there's some images. There's some places you can market images online and, do stuff other than just the, our normal comics route. And I always intend to look into more of that stuff because I tend to accumulate a lot of art. And
I'm interested in merchandising myself.
For sure. So there's people doing that kind of stuff. It's something we ought to all look into because we're producing so many images. And also it's a good way to get more exposure for the comics projects. People say, what the hell is this thing all about? But yeah, it's a great image, man. But it does raise the bar, but that's fine. As long as you're it'll motivate you. You also know what you're capable of doing. You did it before. You could do it again.
100%.
Hey, it's Violent. What's up, Violent? Good to see you.
Hey, Violent.
Good to see you. Yeah, Violent's always
around.
Huge supporter of Comicsgate and comics projects.
100%.
Morgan Freeman. Did Morgan Freeman?
I'm trying to get. Yeah, it's his. That's Morgan Freeman's illegitimate son. I met him in a meeting. We were in the Sons of Illegitimate Fathers, and I'm Dr. John's illegitimate child. So me and Morgan Freeman's illegitimate son got together, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna hook you up, and I'm gonna do a voiceover for you."
That seems complicated. It kind of sounded like your deep voice. You got a great voice, so.
Oh well, thank you.
Yeah, why not use it? Why not use it when you got
it?
When you got
it. Well, you know what it is. It's like if you can be anybody, be Batman. If you can have anybody's voice, have Morgan Freeman's voice.
Morgan Freeman. Better than Gilbert.
You can have God. Yeah, if you have God's, if you can have God's, put God on there.
Put him in there. All right. So this book is also going to be available.
Yeah. On the
campaign.
Correct. So we have a tier called God's Justice, and you will get for a copy of Justice City Chronicles, and you'll get a copy of God's Hand, both signed by the creators.
So you're looking out about a month from now, launching this book, or what are you thinking?
What are you thinking? The 8th?
I'm thinking the 8th, Adam.
Cool.
I'm thinking the 8th.
Very cool. You doing good on signups?
I think so. I mean, I'm hoping to hit 200 is what I'm hoping.
Mm-hmm. And signups isn't sales. You just got to be out there promoting. You get on the show.
Yeah, I've listened to you. I've listened to your videos, and again, you do your due diligence and you follow the path, and the path says you need to get signups, which again, I don't disagree with that, but I also think that doesn't always translate into dollars.
Oh, it's 100% true.
You still have to, like, for me, the grind doesn't end, until the campaign ends. Then the grind, as far as sales and promotion goes, then it's into fulfillment. Then it's into post-production. But you have to stay on. I mean, that's you have to stay on the grind. I came into Comicsgate in, I want to say it was May. I came in May, and I had already funded. You know what I mean? And to do that, I grinded it out, man. I was making individual calls. I was going into individuals and going straight up with individuals, one-on-one, having conversations and pulling sales like that.
Cool.
So, I mean, you got to, if you go out there and you grind it out, man, you can make it happen. I think that the signups will make that grind a little less rough. You know what I'm saying? Not so desperate, because I was desperate up there. please give me some money.
Well, it added up eventually because you guys did 18,000 on the first campaign, which is really, really good.
Comicsgate, they had a lot to do with that as well, man.
For sure.
Preston, Nikki the Pipe brought me in, and the community was great, and I'll tell you, yeah, exactly, the good Preston.
Good Preston.
The other Preston's okay now too. I think he did a funny video with Liam and Ethan. I did something kind of funny the other day, but it's very weird. This is a weird thing sometimes where people go and they come back and then they go in circles and this one's bad and then he's good. It's like, World Wrestling Federation.
I'm looking for the people who fool with the least amount of drama, and I'll tell anybody, and I'll tell it to their face, and I'll say whatever, that when I came into Comicsgate, everybody was very, very helpful. Everybody put their hands out, and I'm gonna tell you, Adam was one of them. Adam didn't know me from nothing, but anytime I ever asked Adam a question, anytime I ever had anything, he put me on the track. Put me right on the track, never had no bullshit, always was helpful to me. And I always am appreciative of that, man.
Good to hear that. Yeah, you're always been good people too. You helped me promote the Mermaids when I launched the Mermaids. And we all just help each other out. It's not a hard thing to do. It makes the burden a little less. And it's great to see people succeed. People 100%. They do good, you do good, we all do good. Some of our projects are going to do better than others. We live, we learn, and we learn from each other and stuff. And then we just keep moving and hustling and building this thing up and doing our own thing without anyone telling us what to do, really.
I think that's the way to go, bro.
It's the only way. It's the best way. When I stopped publishing comics, it was I was selling them to comic stores, and it really was pretty much just Diamond running the whole thing. And it just kept getting smaller and smaller. Everything kept getting closed off. It's just like no life, no competition. And, Diamond just kept turning the screws on everybody. Like, really.
They did. Well, we were there. You probably remember when me and Marcus first came in, we were doing work with Brent Irwin over at Ape Entertainment. And that's who actually, that's who Brent used to work for Wizard. So we used to go we'd have a nice little booth at the Wizard thing.
Oh, cool.
And I think Chicago was my first one. When Chicago Wizard World, when it was a real convention, you'd walk in, there was carpet everywhere. DC was there, Marvel was there, and everybody was there. This was back when you had Viper, Devil's Due, Arcana. Yeah, you know what I mean? They were all there. And we did Justice City Chronicles, which was a 12-page story in an omnibus. And we went through Diamond and all these different things. And I remember having this conversation in 2003, 2004, 2005, that it was like, well, why can't we just go straight to the comic book shops? Why can't we just sell our own stuff? And again, I was green, and man, I remember them going, oh no, you can't do that. Diamond will blackball your ass, man. If they find out that you're trying to sell comics without them, they'll blackball you.
Yeah, they like to control every last aspect of everything, and they consider those stores to be their customers.
Right.
And you're kind of like, you get to sell to them through them. That's it. Right. I pissed them off a couple of times doing stuff like that, like where I was selling directly to stores. But some publishers, they don't mind them doing it. It's a whole weird relationship thing. Yeah, it really is kind of wacky. But yeah, nothing like crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is where it's at. Crowdfunding is number one. This book is going to be 70 color pages, right?
70 to 80. Because we got, that's going to basically
be at least 70.
Yeah, it'll be basically the same format as God's Hand.
Cool. Are you going to go perfect bound on this?
100%.
Yes. Perfect bound is really great. Who did you guys print with?
Mix them.
Okay. They treat you right?
They did. Well, I tell you what, at first, I had some lady who, again, bless her heart, didn't really know what she was doing. And I kind of got dicked around a little bit. And then they hooked me up with this lady named Sarah, who once she got involved, that was it, bro. It was cake after that. And she took care of everything.
I worked with Sarah.
Sarah's good people, man. She's really good people. Your book came out really good. That's why I was asking you when I was going, I was like, what are you using? Because I mean, that I went with the matte finish, right? I went with the matte lamination, which is completely opposite from College of the Dead. But College of the Dead, that gloss was beautiful. I mean, it was fucking beautiful, man.
Yeah, thanks.
And
man.
I was
Nice
debating.
job.
I was like, man, I don't know. I might want to do this. So I don't know what the subject matter that Justice City is. I don't know. We may go with a gloss because again, that is good for content, but Justice City, it's like you want that shit to pop. You want it to pop.
I like the matte look too. I like that look too. So every now and then I peek at that, and like you look at different things, but I don't know. I mean, I just like certain formats are going to look good, certain stuff's going to look good. You just want it to look good. That's all. It's just got to look good.
College of the Dead looked really good, man. I got College of the Dead 2. I got 2.
Yeah, Graduation Day.
Yeah, that black man was just it looked good. It really
they really did a nice job. I was happy with them. Some people have used them and been really happy with them. I know one guy used them that wasn't happy with them, where it was really dark or something like that.
What was his issue?
Well, he had a proof done, and then when he got the book, it was darker than the proof.
Did they tell you that, Adam? Because they told me that.
Well, that's what that's what my friend told me who would use them, who was like, you know what, it came out much darker. I'm really not happy. You can't really see the colors properly. And, the thing is, if you order a proof, it should look like the proof. That's the whole point. The proof is not just for layout.
That's the thing. This is what they basically told me, is that the proof is digital, but that the stuff that the actual book itself is not digital. That stuff comes off of
it depends how many you're printing.
That's true too. You're right. I got 1,200 copies.
That's not going to be digital. Yeah.
Right. So I got 12. So they told me up front though that look, we're sending you a digital copy, which is close. And again, it was close. It wasn't like it was like it was close, man.
Yeah, but it can vary a little bit. But for what we're doing for short runs, like less than 5,000 and things like that. I like them as a company. What I really like about Mixam is their pricing calculator.
100%.
Because you can see, like, all right, if I do 900, it's going to cost this. And there are some little flaws in their system where like 900 costs more than 1,100 or something.
Man, it's crazy. You go from that matte lamination or from that or spot UV is another one. You go from spot UV from ordering like say 100 to 200 books. It's essentially more than the book. Yeah. But now you get up to 1,000 and all of a sudden the price just goes almost to it goes almost to nothing, man.
For spot UV, you're saying?
Yeah, for spot UV.
I'll have to check it out. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, spot UV is
the only thing with Mixam, and you got to negotiate with them is they haven't quite gotten the
extra cover.
Yes. You got to negotiate with their asses.
If you're doing like 1,000 copies or something like that, they could work it out with you. They could charge you just a flat upcharge, $150, $130 or something like that.
Ultimately, that's what they did with me.
That's cool. Because you don't want to be like putting in 2 separate orders for that.
No, because this is the thing is they were like, the only way for us to prorate what you got to put in 3 separate orders, right? So I put the 3 separate orders in, and again, you're talking about a price difference of almost $3,000.
Yeah, it's out of control.
It's like, and so that's all I was like, y'all got to do something, dude.
Yeah, they've been working on that for a long time. I don't know if they'll ever get it. Oh, it's Eddie Winkler. I haven't seen him around in a while.
Eddie. You got to get that book, baby. That's a book right there, boy.
Oh, yeah, Sovereign
Wolf. That's a book there.
People psyched about Sovereign Wolf. Eddie spared no expense. He's working on
Eddie's good people, man.
The longest time. And he is really good people. He invests in his project, and it's just a great thing. If you think about it, just to be able to make comics like this, when the comic stores have fallen apart. I mean, look, there's comics that Spawn sells a lot of copies. Todd McFarlane's doing a new Spawn universe of characters. That's all well and good for Todd McFarlane. But anybody else just like, well, let me go into comics and try to hustle in comic stores.
No, it's done.
It is not an easy game to play. It's not people that can make it kind of work. Like Brian Pulido has made it work again with Lady Death, where he'll take his crowdfunded book, he'll break it into 2 separate issues with all kinds of extra multiple covers and whatnot. I got nothing against multiple covers. I freaking love doing multiple covers. But, he's got his gamed part of the system after he's already paid for it through crowdfunding. That makes sense. That's something I'm interested in doing in the future.
100%.
Project.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
But you you can't just roll into.
No,
They'll
no.
eat you alive and feed you to the fish. Like Diamond has been breaking on small companies for a long time. They used to have an advertising department. This guy Steve Bond used to run it. I don't know what he went on to do. I think he's a super spy now or something like that. Steve Bond. But his name was Steve Bond. Nice guy. But he ran their advertising department, and he would sell advertising to new publishers. And I've even heard people recently tell me, like, yeah, I talked to Diamond, and I can sell a lot through Diamond, and they told me all I have to do is buy a full page in the catalog. Now, you work with Ape, or you work with Ape Entertainment, so you know a little bit about. Okay, that is not the way to go. That is not. You buy a full page in the catalog, you're dropping at least $3,000.
You're killing you. There's no fucking way.
And I've advertised in their catalogs before, and it does work. Like, you can generate some money, but you can't just come out of the gate like.
How long? Let me ask you this question. How long has that been, though, Adam? How long has that been since?
I would not. Let me put it this way: I would not do it now. I would.
Right. That's what. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Last time I spent money on an ad with Diamond was probably like 1994.
Jesus, you
yeah.
got us. Wow. We were in 2004.
Yeah.
And it was
no. 2004 is like, that's nothing. I'm like, I'm going back.
It's a different game, man. I think. And again, you know the story better than I do. I came in Johnny come lately on all this stuff. You've been here for a while, but from my perspective, looking at it, what I see is that, yeah, man, everybody kind of came together and was like, hey, we don't want to see this industry be destroyed. We don't want to see this mainstream industry go down the tubes, because we were there. That's the fucking issue. We were all there when it was doing all of this.
I want to see it succeed, but people.
It took me a minute, man, and it was for me. I was 40, 41 when I finally was just like, you know what, bro? I don't even want to work for Marvel. And so my entire life, that was my thing, was to do an issue of Wolverine. That was my childhood dream, and to just be like, I don't even want to do that anymore.
I love the Wolverine.
Now he's dead, right? I mean, that's my point. That's my thing. But Comicsgate had this place and to create here. And then when it felt like everybody at some point was like, you know what? Go ahead. You keep the mainstream. Go ahead and keep it. We're gonna go over here. We're gonna be that's it. Yeah. It's like, go ahead, you win, keep doing what you're doing, because everything that you're destroying, we're gonna pick up and we're gonna build our own.
Yeah, because there's people that still love comics.
Absolutely.
And in Comicsgate, you see people that really have a love for the art form. Because
most people grew up on it, Adam. That's the difference.
But now we're not all the same.
There.
And we're not all the same. I'm not saying that. But I'll tell you, a lot of respect for Ethan Van Sciver, who, when he talks about how serious he is about comic books, the man is very serious about comic books. It's to be admired, and it's great to see people coming in and being able to make money. I love to see him bringing his friends back in the game. Trent and Matt Martin. It's just great to see those guys.
A lot of people like that. Billy, freaking Shane, Billy, Dan. You got who's that? Andy Smith. I mean, you see a bunch of people who are coming in.
Shane David, Kenneth Rocafort. A lot of guys. A lot of success. And I don't know if you've seen Ethan's taken over publishing Starblaze.
I saw that.
Saw that.
A great move. Yeah,
because it's a great looking book, bro. It's a great looking book.
Why not do it? Uber is asking, hey, Adam, where's the updates on Mermaids? And the answer to that question, Mr. Uber, is we are doing production layouts on the interior because I have this great friend, Chris Renkowitz, who used to be in my studio when we had a comic book studio. Oh my God, back in 1992. And Chris was there. He was interning for Marvel before us, and then he actually was a step up to come to our studio, which was great. But anyway, he's gone on to making comics at Marvel and then a career in animation, and he just does some other cool, amazing things. He's going to be publishing a book soon and launching a book soon called The Agent. But Chris offered to help me because, like everybody, CG royalty is coming out of the woodwork being like, come on, Adam, you don't have to do 6-panel pages. And I was like, well, the whole thing is drawn already. And Billy is like on live streams going like, look, here's a drawing. Here's a drawing. This is how you can lay it out. And Frank too. Frank is like, look, Adam, why don't you try this? And he sent me some stuff by email too. I'm like, guys, I don't want to open this can of worms because from a production standpoint, there's something about getting something done and keeping your promise. You hit your deadline even a little early is good. However, I couldn't deny that these guys are right. So Chris, who's done he's done animation production. He was doing production in my studio, and that's a fraction of what Chris has done. He's like quite amazing. So Chris is like, listen, you know what? We could do this. So Chris and I have been working on this, and we have an interesting process. Like I've gone through all 40. Well, there's 40 pages of sequentials, and then there's a ton more of these color art pages in there. The book's going to be at least 48 pages. I'm not quite sure how many I want to do, but it's going to be at least 48. So I went through all of the sequential pages and did a couple of mock-ups of ideas that I had for some of the alterations of the layouts. And Chris did some layouts that they look amazing. He's just an incredible talent. They did some effects as well in the layout. So we've got some of those done yet, but it's not all completely done. So I kind of want to wait till we're a little further on in production. And then I'm going to put this thing on to be on a bunch of live streams, on my live stream, be a bunch of live streams showing the difference from one page to another page and showing the layout. It's really, really dynamic. So we've captured all the good drawing and all the good storytelling, but created it so it was dynamic. So it's not going to be a 6-panel grid anymore. It's not going to even be, there aren't going to even be margins or gutters. It's going to be full bleed. So it's going to look very, very cool. Yeah, it's going to look very cool. And so that's the stage that we're at now. We're going through pages. It takes a little bit of a while. I just want to try to ship in April as promised. But I'm in a way, I'm really glad that I took this on. Because like you guys are talking about getting feedback from Comicsgate, feedback from customers. And the truth is, with College of the Dead, we had the large margins and whatnot. I didn't get complaints. It was just kind of like a narrative. People were kind of joking around. Hey, Eric. Good to see you there, brother. But yeah, people were. It got picked up as a narrative. People started talking about it. So, I had no problems with it, though. People liked the book. But now with Mermaids, it's come up again. So I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. And then just because Chris could do it, otherwise I wouldn't have engaged in it. Because I won't do something. Look, the artist drew it. So it's also important to respect what the artist contributed. It's all work for hire. It's my work. I didn't draw it, but it's my work. It's bought and paid for. But that said, just because it's your work doesn't mean you shouldn't respect the people that spent lots and lots of time doing this.
Take care of your manpower, man.
Yeah, you have to respect. The whole thing is not to be even a great guy. It's like, but if you respect your talent, you kind of want your reputation to be good, and you want people to know that you appreciate what they did for you. And also, if we do Mermaids 2, which hopefully we will, I want the same artist to contribute, but this time he'll be able to do it dynamic. What Chris and I were talking about, and you get into this when you start really getting into the art and you're starting to look at all right, this panel should actually be larger and let me make a small alteration. You get into how much drawing is going into doing storytelling and how much thought has to go into storytelling to constrict it into these 6 panels.
Shit.
You know what I mean?
Look, I had the issue with God's Hand, right? So initially it was 52 pages. And you're trying to tell the story. And me and Marcus are, brought up in a time when everything was done in series. So you told the story in a 22, 24, 28 page cliffhanger for the next to the next to the next. You get into these formats now and it's different. You know what I mean? You're trying to put a little bit more into it without starting another arc, without doing these things. And I'm getting to page 52 and I'm like, I don't have enough pages. And I'm like, I had to balloon it out to 66.
And you have to really, like, writing is a whole other different thing. You really have to plan it out. This is a page. This is going to wind up being a 5-panel page, this 6-panel page, because we made this where this shark, everyone loves this image. And they've noticed that, like, in all my comics so far, I have women's arms getting bitten off. That's not intentional. But what's funny is, maybe it is, because this image was done before the College of the Dead one was. So I don't know exactly why that worked out that way. But yeah, it's probably some mental illness that I have. But this panel should be a lot bigger. It just should be, because of all those shots, it is the money shot. Yeah, and the drawing is really well done. It holds up. It holds up, so it can be a little bit larger. This panel.
Did you take out the 5th panel?
Yeah,
would go.
That's exactly right. We had to take out this 5th panel because when you make it dynamic, and the pacing changes. It
does.
So there's, first when we looked at this, I was like, I'm going to wind up with like a 60-page book. This is like, it's not what I planned on. And Chris was like, no, you can't just, push it one off panel to the next page and start to collect them. I'm like, why? He's like, well, look. And then he was showing me, I'm like, oh, God, I love this Chris Rankowitz guy.
Yeah.
He is really, really good. He's really, really good. So I'm just, that's the thing. Like, the relationships that we're building now too, me, Chris, but like you guys and me and, all of us together, that what we're doing together here is important. And we don't know how it's going to impact us 20 years from now. But even, like, for right now, Comicsgate makes it easier and easier for everybody to do their best work, because we're all kind of collaborating here.
100%.
And no one's going to be able to stop me from helping Chris when he's ready to do his.
That's the thing, Adam. I'm going to tell you, coming over from.
Hey, Nerium.
It was like, hey, Nerium. It was. Oh, yes. Low sugar.
Nerium's cool. Don't forget Nerium's Project Bonds. Everyone's excited about Bonds.
Bonds. Oh, that's Nerium's book.
Yeah. Nerium's is the one doing that.
You're right, Nerium.
Looking book.
100%. If you need anything, Nerium, holla at me.
I love your art,
Nerium. Same thing with you, Adam. If you need sketch cards, or you need anything, like I said,
all right.
help you out.
Yeah. Maybe we the College of the Dead. I got to get working on 3 very soon.
Let me know. Whatever you need, just holla at me. But coming kind of from that middle ground, it was like, I can tell you right now, and I'll debate this with anybody, because I've been in both sides of it. I grinded it out on the other side. That was the thing. And it's like, here's the difference. When I came into Comicsgate, the real difference, one of the main differences for me between Comicsgate and the everybody else is fellowship. Like when I came, there's a real fellowship here. It's not just a bunch of smoke bullshit like it is on the other side.
I was shocked. When I came in. There's Sim Poitier being like, Adam, let me help you with this. Like,
Sim's good people.
Tell me all these things. Like, he's just such a great guy about it. And then he introduced me to Red Gaze, who was great to me. And just to be able to pay it back, because we can all pay each other back because we're all participating. Like 100%. You're offering, hey, I can hook you up with this. Like you can, whatever you have, you give, and same here. That's why I try to do as much of these nightly shows as I can, because it's just good. It's just good for everybody. It's good exposure for everybody too, and also it's a chance to kind of get together and talk. It's hard to go have a beer, It
is. You made a lot. You made a lot of good videos, man. That helped me out. Looking at them and just trying to play catch up and shit, and it helped out a lot. Yeah.
Hey, I'm happy to do it, and I like to hear, like, I was one of the early people, I think, doing the video on Nerium's book too. Red Gaze kind of brought her to my attention, I think. And now more and more people are talking about it. So that's the other thing too, is you do a live stream, if 100, 150 people see that live stream, probably a third of them are backers and 2/3 of them are influencers. So the word gets around. And that's the main thing, is when you launch, you do the email list. That's important. But you just don't want to launch until generally you think most people, at least who particularly care. Vile Neds, Eric Huffles, Sim.
100%.
We want, if they don't know the book is coming out, this is a problem.
100%.
That's a problem.
1,000% on that.
They need to know. If they don't know yet, then you want to promote it a little more first. And now Nerium is a regular, which is great.
I haven't had the pleasure yet to actually meet her.
Okay.
She must have been listening to us the other day. We were on Morning Roast with Sim and Chris Kino Sub.
Oh, cool.
We were cutting up bad, and I like that's what she's talking about. We christened his Kino Sub is now Sugar Chris. Sugar. And there's a story behind it. It's inappropriate, but I'll tell it another time. She must have been on it. She must have seen that, which is good. That's good shit, man. Really.
Now, how much of? Let me ask you a Justice City related question. You guys deliver your goods, so that ain't a worry. But just from production curiosity, how far along is this? It looks like you got some absolutely completely finished pages here.
I don't know. I'd say about 70%, 65, 70% at this point.
Wow. Are you guys doing all the color as well?
We don't know. No.
Okay.
Like I said,
that's the one thing we don't do.
Yeah. You don't want to, if you can avoid it, you don't want to do everything.
Look, and you're 100% right on that. Look, I would like to do everything or have the ability to do everything, but I've learned also that, do what you're good at and pay, if you can afford to, pay people who are good at that to do their jobs, man. And find the people like one of the colors I had on God's Hand, fucking fell in love with him, man, because he was one of those colorists that has instinct, And so you would give him something, and when he would color it, sometimes he would come back and he would be like, well, look, this character, you didn't specify, but I made his eyes blue. And I'm like, well, why did you do that? And he's like, well, because it's a snow character. He's from the ice. So I kind of fit. And that you know what I mean? Like that. And so I was like, wow.
They can do a lot. They can contribute a lot. Like the right collaborators for sure.
Someone like that who's thinking and going, yeah, well, blah, 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 and running the story. I want someone like that.
Like a little thing about me is I have avoided writing. I've always kind of got into the concept. The last thing I fully wrote was J. Jackrabbits #1 in 1986. So it was a little while ago. But I've created a lot of stuff. Everything many things I've published have been I came up with the idea for it and then just kind of managed it. And with College of the Dead, with Mermaids, all stuff I created, but I was hands off about the actual scripting and even a good chunk of the character development. And the reason why was I haven't had that polished skill set of writing. And I admire everybody who's, publishing their own, writing and drawing their own stuff, and they have the confidence to do that. Graham Nolan, I was really impressed. I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago. He was saying how one of his first, or I think it was his first book, his first assignment for DC, he wrote and drew, which was not that common in the 1980s. Some people did it, but really only John Burns was doing it. Frank Miller was doing it, but you didn't hear that super common. Usually tasks got broken up. Justice Broads, Adam Post Classic. Thank you, man. Yes, Justice Broads is a parody of Justice League. I published Spoof Comics, which was female parodies of Marvel and DC superheroes mostly. And we published so many of them. So we turned them all into female characters before you saw Iron Man, as a woman, Daredevil as a woman, all that. So that was a hell of a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm looking at reprinting those. It's going to be kind of a big project because it's going to probably be 1,000 pages or so worth of content.
That's awesome though, man.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Those were fun. We've had some of it recolored just to show you a little bit of sneaky insight. Oh, these are the Justice Broads. Okay. Since you brought up Justice Broads, you shall be rewarded with Justice Broads Inside Secret. I have had our Adam Hughes covers remastered. And for real, yeah. All right, here we go. Solo. This is the remastered Adam Hughes cover of Justice Broads, the Virgin cover. he's amazing. Adam Hughes.
He is.
He did this in 1992 for us. So we spent a year recoloring the 7 covers that he did for us in 1992, and this was the Justice Broads one. So I don't have that planned yet for exactly how we're gonna package that, but his work is too good to keep it out of print.
100%.
Yeah, he was a hell of a genius. But what I was saying about the writing was I didn't really want to write it myself because I wasn't as confident as some other people are. And also, like, I kind of know, like, you know, people who've been writing professionally for their, 20 or 30 years. I know a couple of those guys that I can give assignments to. 100%. So the writing that I've been publishing is excellent, but it's not been mine. So that's the other trade-off is.
Well, I can tell you this, Adam, me and Marcus have talked about this, but ultimately, you're in a place where that's where I'm trying to get to. I mean, ultimately, what I want to do is I want to make enough money so that I can create IPs and be just what you're just talking about. I want to be Lucas. I want to be Lucas. Do you understand?
This is what I
create IPs and then hire writers and hire artists.
This is what I've kind of boiled it down to. I think that's going to work for me. The one problem with having other people do the writing for you is they're still executing on your vision, so it's still one step away. So when it's Adam creates a parody of the Justice League and calls them the Justice Broads, there's not much more to do with that. Like, you give that to a writer, let him tell a story that's basically within the bounds, and then Adam Hughes does the cover, you're good to go. And that's what we did. And that's fine for that. But when you're creating what you want to be, like the way that Ethan Van Sciver was passionate about Cyberfrog, the way that, like, he's saying, all right, he wants to do Cyberfrog for the rest of his life, and he made you a couple of other characters, but he's going to, like, that's going to be the rest of his life is really dedicated to that character. Same with Todd McFarlane with Spawn. And then there are other related characters to Spawn. So when you're thinking about, like, stuff that is going to be a really, really important story for you, your Spider-Man, that you got to write the character and understand the origin and who that character really is. A Fiverr, okay, this is for IDZ. A Fiverr for having that book in arms reach in seconds. I won't let them away from me, IDZ. I have a couple of Adam Hughes covers. All right, now I want to show you another cover because I get really excited about these Adam Hughes covers. We spent a year just remastering these. This is the first Adam Hughes cover was a parody of Spider-Man, and it's called Spider-Femme. So what is Spider-Femme? She does get a tingly sense, but it's not about danger. It's about feeling good. This is the remastered Spider-Femme. And we went from Adam's colors. He did it originally like airbrush. We went from his colors, and then we just went ahead and updated, for modern coloring style. So the signatures are Adam Hughes with Farah's contribution on it. So yeah, that was that's Spider-Femme. So yeah, there's 7 of them, and there's a couple of variants, but what it goes to show you is you get great collaborators. Who knew that, like, many years later, God, it's almost 30 years later, but many years later, the work would be just that beautiful and that contemporary that now, like, people will be excited for those, I'm sure. I just have to kind of figure out, like, we've got 7 of them. I don't want to not publish all of them, but ideally I'm not going to do 7 variants of one book because that's a bit excessive. So we'll see. We'll get it put together. Oh, it's Hex Harper.
Call them out. Hex is good too. Hex is good people too. I was just on Hex's show.
Joseph Ippolito, you don't look so bad yourself. Oh, you're talking about Spider-Femme. Thank you, sir. Hex Harper is great. I haven't seen you in a little while. But yeah, so but I love the opportunity that Comicsgate gives me to be like, well, listen, do you want to create these iconic, like, once in a lifetime characters or not, Adam Post? The answer is I really do. I do want to create some once in a lifetime characters like that. So I started working on a list of characters. So one of the guys in Comicsgate Adam Friended. He has a YouTube channel. He's publishing but his book Supervillains Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I have been talking about writing on and off. And he'd been asking me, he's like, well, you're doing College of the Dead. It's fine. Why don't you do, a single character and really do a 6-figure campaign? And I was like, well, yeah, I'll get to it. He's like, why are you going to do anything else other than that? Everybody knows you. They want to support your work, but you have to have something that's like we were just talking about with Malin earlier on, the tweet, put out something that everybody can get behind, that everyone in Comicsgate would really want, and just do it at the highest level. So
that's what Justice City is.
That's Justice City. So you beat me to it. You beat me. Oh, Jerry Unbound. Good to see you. Hey, thanks
Jerry,
for that,
what's happening, Jerry? Jerry's got a great looking book, man.
Cool. Very cool.
Unbound is I tell you what, no bullshit. His book looks really good, man.
Well, these things speak for themselves. I'm more than happy to look at it. Oh wait, Jerry Unbound is he doing Evermatter? Yeah, the art's great in Evermatter. He's been on. Jerry's good people.
Dude,
yeah, guys,
good.
back Evermatter.
He popped. Yeah, Jerry is. He did. He popped on. I was on Preston's channel.
Cool. Good
Preston. I was on his channel, and Jerry was on there. And we were bullshitting around, and they pulled his book out. He started showing the page. I was like, God damn. I was like, shit, I didn't even see that.
His art is really good. It's very dynamic.
It's good. It looks well. It
does.
Big
story. Good to see you. Good to see you, Jerry. Yeah, everybody, once you've been on the channel, come visit in the chat, hang out, make sure you're around. And
you shouldn't have said that. Marcus is going to be.
Marcus is cool.
He's going to be haunting your.
Good. But it reminds me of your project. It does remind me of your project. And then once I've had you on, usually like if I'm on Ethan's channel or someone else's channel and I see somebody in the chat and they're like, yeah, there's that project Bonds. Like, oh yeah, Bonds, Nerium. It's really good. It's a werewolf book. I wind up pitching somebody's book when I'm there, like to the extent that I can. I know. Everybody's helping everybody else out and we're all promoting and we're all like just trying to get the word out and give everybody a shot to like be able to do their thing. But I've been getting into the writing now. So I got to the point where like I'm working on, I have many different ideas, like a good 20 different or so ideas for characters. And I'm studying Aristotle's Poetics, an analysis of Aristotle's Poetics, because Aristotle, the philosopher, he did a lot of brilliant things. But one of the things he did was define what like good dramatic writing should be, at least from his point of view. So you can get it you can check it out on YouTube or whatnot, but you get like a lot of tremendous insight and ideas just kind of going and researching and digging deep into it. Because the thing is it's not just like, well, I love Wolverine. I'm a big Wolverine fan. I'd love to do a character like Wolverine, but you have to look at what that means. Like we did a character, unfortunately Adam Hughes didn't design it, although he did draw it once for us. We created our own female version of Wolverine called Wolver Broad. And that was Spoof Comics number 3 by Jim Balin, did the cover. And 2 claws, just like they did with X-23. Of course, we did it in 1992. But in any event, like I'm not talking about that. You can't do that. You can't just like say, well, it's Wolverine, but instead of claws, he's got, knives or something at the end of his fist. You have to come up with your version of like, well, who is Wolverine to you? What does Wolverine mean to you?
100%.
And then what's his life about? What's his world about? And what other kind of conflicts does this kind of character have? And then what's funny is, because Alexander the Great, yes,
this is true.
He tutored Alexander the Great. Apparently, I need to learn a lot more about Aristotle because he's my kind of bro, because he's very into science and hard sciences and logic and analysis. So when he's talking about like, well, this is what a good story should have, he's not like just going like, artsy fartsy professor on you or something like that. He's explaining like, look, you're trying to get a feeling of catharsis. You're like, well, what the hell is catharsis? A feeling of a release of emotions of pity and fear. And to give you an experience when you're reading that story, which means no screwing around on the writing. It's like it's not just like, oh, this page looks cool. It's like, no, this is really deeply going into showing a character that when the reader is reading it, they're investing themselves in it. For example, I love Frank Miller's Daredevil, and I was like crazy, for Elektra. I thought Elektra was awesome. She didn't even look that hot in the comics, Elektra, but Elektra was kind of amazing. So as I've been studying writing these past couple of months, really like getting myself together for my 6-figure comic book project, I started thinking about like, what is it about Elektra that made her so compelling? And like, yeah, she's hot and she's kind of cool. She uses the psi weapons. But what's really interesting, I think, about Elektra is, so when we're reading Daredevil, he's an avatar for us. We kind of see ourselves as that hero. We're playing out that hero character, right? So we are Daredevil when we're reading Daredevil. She's a threat to Daredevil, physically, and emotionally, because she could turn him into like a pile, like fall over, like, oh, I love you. And she could be just like stabbing him with the psi. Like, I don't know if you guys read much of Elektra, the Frank Miller days or not, but
I didn't,
okay. But as we kind of get the idea of her, but he was her girlfriend from college.
Mm-hmm.
And then she came back as an assassin. You know who Daredevil is.
Correct.
Yeah.
So as a teenager and as a guy reading comics, women do feel like a threat. Like we're afraid of women, and as an adult, and then you got a wife, whatever it is, it's a different dynamic. But as a young man, especially, like it's a whole thing of like women can destroy your identity in 2 fucking seconds. Especially if you're not comfortable with rejection, which is very normal. It's like very common. But as a teenager and stuff, like women, it's intimidating. So to see Elektra kind of destroying Daredevil and being a danger to Daredevil, it's so relatable with you kind of reading Daredevil and really, internalizing Daredevil. No women were doing that shit to Wolverine. Like it's not in the 1980s. Now he's like probably bitch slapped around by guys or something. But
it's terrible, fucking terrible.
But no women were doing that to Wolverine. No women were even doing that to Superman. And it's not that Daredevil was weak. It's just like this girl got him. She got him. He loved this girl, and she was a danger and all that as an assassin. So it's just very interesting the way as you start to think about the writing and the relationship with the characters, and you look at the world that they're kind of creating, the interaction within that world, you can really start to understand and see like, oh, okay, I see why that's compelling. You guys know the origin story for Spider-Man, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you really start to dig into it, and especially when you know Aristotle's Poetics, you realize like, oh, he's the perfect, what they call tragic hero.
Mm-hmm.
And actually Aristotle believed that only someone that lived through a tragedy and a family death could be a hero. They had to have a tragedy. They could not be a hero with that. So Spider-Man's kind of like the perfect hero.
You need the duress to
you need the duress.
Crucible. You need the crucible to bring out the purity.
And it's got to be the result of a mistake, which it was in Spider-Man's case.
Greeks had, as far as tragedies, comedies, drama, Greeks had it fucking down. I mean, they just did. They were pulling Twilight Zones long before anybody else.
And that's
Oedipus Rex is one of the biggest Twilight Zones you'll ever fucking.
Oedipus Rex is the Twilight Zone.
It is fucking Twilight Zone, dude. It's just what I mean.
Oedipus Rex is what Aristotle said. Oedipus Rex, which just is like Oedipus the king, is supposedly like the absolute perfect, according to Aristotle, dramatic story.
Dude, it's
it's pretty freaking dramatic. And I've, it's interesting to read it and then get one analysis, not Oedipus Rex even, but like to understand the story from like one person's take on YouTube, and then to go and see other people's take. And one of the other people on there's one guy who was analyzing saying like Oedipus's story is like it's incredibly tragic because here he was a king. He was rightfully a king from like 3 different places. One, he actually was the son of a king. This character, Oedipus, was the son of a king. He was adopted by another king and queen. So being adopted by them, he was rightfully a king then. He also wound up marrying a queen, who unfortunately happened to be his mother, but he didn't know that at the time. So, and with his father, who was the king, dying, he had a right to be the king. So he absolutely was well within his right. Oh, he also saved the city at least once because he saved it from the Sphinx.
From the Sphinx, yeah.
Right. It's by dealing with a riddle. This is like weird Greek stories, guys, but to be honest, it's an incredible lesson. Without Oedipus Rex, you're not getting fucking Spider-Man.
No, you don't. There's so much. Yeah,
you ain't getting Spider-Man without Oedipus Rex or stories that were like Oedipus Rex. So when you go back to Unhinged, when you go back to the source of this stuff, and actually that's something Graham Nolan was talking about in terms of art styles. He was talking about going back to like original older art styles from, I think, more like the classic 70s and 80s to pick up and be like, well, I want to incorporate some of that into my work because a lot of it gets watered down. But you can't go and do something as cool as Spider-Man potentially without going to the source material for Spider-Man, which is absolutely, in these old tragic stories. And you can get so many ideas, but what's also really amazing about these stories that are old stories is all these family relationships. Like this one is the father of that one, and this one's the son and the brother of that one. And those family tie-ups, incest aside, you can leave that out. But just like with The Godfather, the story of the son having to do what the father didn't want him to do. So that was like ironic that he had to be the one to go and do that. And all the things that the son does because of his father and for the family. It's so, even though
Godfather definitely, if you follow the whole run on Godfather, it definitely is in that vein because Michael Corleone attempts to do the right thing. He attempts to fill this gap, to do this thing. There's that great scene where he's outside and he saves his father, and he's with the baker Enzo, and they're standing there after the car goes by, and Enzo wants a cigarette, and Enzo, he's lighting the cigarette, and his hands are just shaking, and Michael lights it for him, and then Michael looks at the lighter and looks at his hand and realizes that his hand is not shaking. And he starts to accept this destiny, but by doing this and saving the family, he becomes this monster. He becomes this thing, and it's like, and he is a true Greek tragic hero in that he strives to be this thing, but by doing this, he corrupts himself and corrupts the whole idea of everything. Whereas his father is loved, he is completely feared.
Yep, and in the case of Aristotle, they talk about like a Greek tragedy or like the perfect tragic compelling story. They talk about the character's flaw is what ultimately is their undoing, and the flaw is usually related to hubris, arrogance. So if you think about like, well, what was Michael's arrogance then when it came to The Godfather? And the answer to that, I think, would be when he just decided like, all right, I'm just going to take over for my father. I'll just do that. Like, how the fuck you going to do that? Like, how are you going to do that? That's like not a trivial thing, and that wasn't the life that was even meant for him in the first place. I would assume that I don't know. I have to go now study, hours of that.
It would be interesting. It would be interesting because it would be, I'll tell you, there's a part where you see his true I don't know. I'm going to tell you where you see his hubris.
Yeah, what do you think you see Michael's hubris?
When he sits down with Connie's husband, and he essentially taunts him first before he kills him and tells him, "I'm going to send you off." That was cold. That was fucking cold, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't when he had him go kill the members of the Five family. That was business. He was doing what was necessary to do. Right. It isn't that he killed Carlo, right? That would have been whatever, but it was the way he did it. and he did it in a very way
Well,
so that at the
he couldn't
end,
kill him in the apartment, and he had to convince him to go with.
well, he's the
Taylor.
Godfather. He could do whatever he wants to him. You know
Well,
what I'm saying?
but his sister was there too. So see, that was the interesting thing. Like they had that in The Sopranos. I remember when I was first watching The Sopranos, and they overdid it because they would get in the fucking letters and stuff where it's like, oh, you're not paying, you don't have enough storylines about his wife. It's like, we're not watching this for his wife. We're watching because he's a cool mafia figure. But they had to have more and more family stories. So I remember like being kind of annoyed with the family stories with The Sopranos. But yeah, but the thing too is like, as we understand, you kind of even see it in Comicsgate. It's like you can have an off day, but it can't be that off. Like in terms of respecting your relationships. You know, recently there were some Twitter DMs going around about someone who was who appeared to be a little bit too friendly with one of the male-female creator relationships. Where it's like it's supposed to just be a business relationship.
Quoting Shakespeare.
I don't know what it was. You know, I got money and I'm good at sex or whatever. Somebody's so saying in tweets, whatever. It's like in direct messages. The thing is no, you can't just do whatever you want. Like no matter who you are, because you have to maintain, you know, all of your bonds and all your relationships.
Well, maybe
everybody backed Bonds by Miriam.
Maybe
Nice
that
segue.
was it, Adam. Maybe it was when he betrayed his bond with his wife, when he lied to her. Maybe that's
the way he was dealing with his wife was also another, like he couldn't have a normal family life. That couldn't be under control for him, you know, and he couldn't control.
He was totally lying to him. He was telling all the kind of stuff.
But the thing is, it's like that. Honestly, people should still be lying to their wives. Like, tell them what they need to know. Tell them what they want to hear. Like, don't make them a party to shit. You know, especially if you're up to crime.
One time, I'm gonna let you ask me. Did you do that? No.
No. Straight line to her.
Shut your ass. Yeah, she would have asked twice. That would have been a problem for her. She's lucky she wound up alive.
I know.
But I think I don't know. I will have to go back and study.
That's interesting. That's an interesting question.
Some people that just, if you think about it, like when he said he's going to take over the family business, like that is insane. You know, that's like he was in the military, right? He had a rifle and whatever. So he was in the military and we knew that about him. That doesn't qualify you.
It's strange though, because I know what you're saying, but there's a part in there that it has to happen after this. Okay. So there's a part when he's in the office and Tom's in there and he says, Tom, you're out. And he's like, well, why am I out? And he's kind of taken over. But when they all walk out, he leans back in his chair and he undoes his thing like, this is a lot. And his daddy walks up behind him and puts his hand on his shoulder, you know, and it's almost like it's not something he necessarily is comfortable and wants to do. He thinks he's doing the right thing, and his daddy's kind of co-signing it. So I think it would be after that point, because he still seems after that meeting, even though he's cool in front of them.
Well, what about this whole thing with him when he shoots the crooked police captain in Salazzo?
Maybe.
Like, how is it?
Because you notice when they have that conversation for him to do that.
Yeah.
You know, Sonny's making fun of him. Oh, you're taking this way too personal. And he's like, it's not personal.
That's
a great business.
That is one of the greatest fucking scenes, bro. That is shot beautifully.
That's the turn right there. That's when he's
It is. It's shot
to the family.
Right.
But you notice it's his trouble becomes when it becomes personal. That's where he starts to lie, and all that happens.
I think
that's
it
where it
how
becomes.
It's possible, Adam. Because going back to it, it's like when he goes to the hospital to protect his daddy and shit, and everything goes down, and then McCluskey, the police captain, comes, and he's like, where's the police officers? And he's like, well, I sent him away. He goes, well, where's my, and he gets pissy with him. And that dude punches him in the face and shit. So there could be a sense they could have slipped that in there. You know what I'm saying? Because there is a sense of arrogance, like, where are these men at? Why'd you do this? And the dude punched the piss out of it, and it's not a coincidence that he shot the dude. Did he shoot him twice? I know he shot him once in the throat. I'm not sure. I think he shot that dude twice too.
He looked like he was just shooting to assassinate them. He looks like he was legitimately like, I'm in there to take care of things.
He blasted Sollozzo. I think he shot the captain in the throat, and then I think he shot him in the head.
Mm.
And then he did the complete opposite of what the dude told him. He picked his hand up and dropped the gun in the air. And the dude said, "Put your hand by your side and drop it."
Yeah. No, he did a great job. He really did a great job. He did. It was a good kill. But yeah, but when you look at these movies and you're like, well, why am I so interested in this story? Why do I care about this character so much? There's so much technique that goes into that. There really is so much technique. And you can learn all this technique. So when I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to kick ass on it, what I think I can do, I don't know that I can write, like, if it's going to be a full 48-page graphic novel of something that's completely from scratch, particularly because of time, I think, to just make it at that quality and not really knowing confidently that I'm capable of doing it. But you can deeply understand the origin of the character, of what makes that character who they are, and then kind of collaborate with somebody. And I think that's the part that's really crucial to make sure that you really own it. When I published Triumphant Comics in '94, we did 7 titles, and it was ongoing color comics. We only published about 50 issues all combined, but it was still a lot of comics. But I created a lot of those characters and a lot of the concepts. The one character that I connected with the most was this character called Chromium Man. And actually, you were reminding me a little bit about some of the similarities to Chromium Man from when we created him. Chromium Man, this is a science fiction universe, not based on Earth. Chromium Man was a super soldier that was raised from youth and genetically modified to be a weapon. And he looked a hell of a lot like Colossus. And he would chrome up and he would go and beat the shit out of people and rip up enemies and just go in there and be a super soldier. At some point, he just decided, he and some of the other guys that were doing this for the evil empire type, the realm, they decided they didn't want to do it anymore. And some of them left, some of them were killed. He left and he went into hiding on a planet and tried to live a life just, in his human form, settle down with his wife, and just leave everything in the past. Unfortunately, people that are looking for him are always out looking for him, because when you're a weapon and you're created and trained and kind of owned by the state because they've invested in you, you're more than just a living thing. And, there's no consideration for human rights, at least in that society. So they've been looking for him and other escaped super soldiers. And because of his wife's stupid protesting, it's like, not misogynistic, but they get you into trouble sometimes.
You gotta lie to him.
His wife was doing protesting. Exactly. Which he did do. He lied to her. So they catch up with him. They wind up on his planet. He has to fight with them, and then him and his wife have to flee the planet. But he was a reluctant hero. He wanted to leave that whole life behind and just kind of be chill. But at the same point, here he is endangering everyone because he knows these people are out looking for them. How do you do that if you're a fugitive and you're like, look, I just want to live. I'm a fugitive. I just kind of want to leave this in the past. I'm not looking for any more trouble, but still the law is looking for you. In his case, they were bad guys that were looking for him, but whatever it is, authorities are looking for you. So you go to a planet, you put the whole planet at risk. If you're someone that's really, in demand, if they're really looking for you, you put this woman at risk, your whole potential family at risk, so it's selfish to even just want to live, especially if you don't tell them the truth of what's going on. But even if you told them the truth of what's going on, people make a decision out of love. They're not going to make a decision that's like, well, I've evaluated all my considerations. It's like, well, you're still endangering that person. So what kind of a, quote, normal life can a fugitive have, even if it's not their fault? And that was Chromium Man. And that I felt it was very personal to me. That was the one character that really everybody liked.
What are you saying, Adam? Are you a fugitive? Is that what you're telling us right now?
In 94, I think I felt more of like a fugitive. It was an odd time. It was a weird time. It was a weird time because
94 what? What was that? OJ was in the white Bronco in 94.
OJ was Bronco in. We started publishing in like 91. And that was Personality Comics back then and Spoof Comics, the Justice Broads and all that. And it was really our own created world. It was a great time, but it was like a strange time, like a lot of new things. So in a way, yeah, I don't know. I had isolated feelings. I always loved that Wolverine was a reluctant hero. I loved the reluctant hero who's just not like out like, hey, I'm going to go do stuff. So like, all right, yup, I'll go do this. I'll cooperate now. And Wolverine's not really like an anti-hero. He's not like Punisher, right? He's not going out being like, look, I got some scores to settle. I'm doing revenge. I mean, they've had 1,000 stories with Wolverine by now. But at least, I don't know, the Wolverine from Hulk 181, I don't know what that character is, but the Wolverine that I knew of in the 80s, he just kind of like, he's drinking beer and smoking cigars. He's off to himself. And when people go starting to screw with him in a bar, he's kind of like, just look, leave me alone. Let me just Wolverine over in the corner and just leave me the fuck alone. You don't want to mess with me. But then people mess with him, and there you go.
I think that was what made, and it should have been the last one, but that's what made, what was it, Rambo 4 such a good movie, that he should have ended it with that, where he was just this, he just was a recluse. He rode the boat and he's like, leave me alone. I just want to ride my boat and shit. And then he gets sucked back in and starts shooting down those 50 cows, blowing people's heads off and shit, man. I thought he should have ended it with that, but it should have been the last one. But that was the same vibe. You had this character who was a killing machine, who essentially was just like, I'm just a boatman now. That's all.
You can write that origin story and you get really tight. Look at the other characters that are like right around their life. You know, where is that character showing hubris that leads to a downfall? And it's got to be a tragic downfall. It's got to be like something majorly screwed up, like, and it's a permanent, unfixable situation. If it's going to be an Aristotelian, as they say, tragedy, which is like, you know, the physics may as well work. You may as well like really look hard at your protagonist and be like, okay, this thing is tight. I've got my irony. I've got like, this really is something that I'm passionate about, this idea, and it really works. And this thing really speaks to me. And this is something like, because I've found like when I'm on live streams, you can't fake it. You know, you can tell people why you're excited about your project and what's so cool about your project. But the thing of it is like, you know what, like with me,
you should know, you better know your craft a little bit.
I can talk about Chromium Man and his reluctance and stuff. And, and, you know, talk a lot about that character and, you know, him living an impossible existence. He has a right to want to live, but if he decides to live, because in his case, it's a decision, he's putting everyone else around him in danger. So how is that? He's a walking conflict. But, other stuff that we publish, like Scavengers, which is a spaceship going around scavenging, basically. Dr. Chaos is a little more interesting too. But there's stuff that I was involved in, stuff, but that is the one character that I really was interested in and cared about the most. So this is the kind of thing, like if we can work at that level, where we're doing the stuff we're really passionate about, we're really interested in, we really feel like we can relate to it, do the math and make sure that you really have a solid tragedy and you don't have to make excuses for why it's not right.
Yeah, well, you can do the same. I mean, that's the thing. You do the same thing with villains as well. I mean, me and Marcus wrote a story. I still want to redo it because I had a lot of, it's one of those ones you fall in love with. I think I can make it entertaining, but we wrote a prequel to 300. And what we did was we went in and we did a little research on what actual Greek history and stuff.
Cool.
And we found out about who really became king when Leonidas was a boy. And basically Leonidas had an older half brother, and he became king. And what that meant was, which is cool, is that the heir to the throne did not go through the Agoge. He didn't go through the school. But since Leonidas was not heir to the throne, hey, Unhinged, what's going on, brother? Without yeah, he's good people. I was fooling with him last night. We were sitting around drawing. But because he wasn't heir, he went through the Agoge. He went through all of that stuff. So the older brother Cleomenes, he was the king through all of this shit. But he winds up becoming a drunk and all this shit like this. So when we write this story, we write Cleomenes as a character who is approached by, because at the time it's not Xerxes, it's Xerxes' daddy, and it is approached by Xerxes' dad and says, "Listen, we're coming in to take over Greece because of Athens and some shit that went down between Athens and Persia. We're coming in and we're going to take over this whole thing. We want you to be the warlord of all of Greece. We want you to be our foothold here." And so the story is about Cleomenes, how he basically takes the offer, because this is before there's a united Greece. Everybody's beefing. He knows Persia's going to come in and wipe everything out. And so what is he going to do? Watch his Sparta, his family be enslaved and everything?
People have choices to make, and it's like
100%.
And that's what makes him right. Choices.
And that's what makes him this tragic kind of villain, because it's like he believed, it's like, well, I'll take over Greece and at least I'll run things, and my people in Sparta and everything, we will run everything, you know? And so it's that betrayal, but it's what causes him to betray Leonidas. So that kind of, I'm going to save everyone, I'm going to do this thing, is what causes him to betray what it means to be a Spartan, what it means to be a good person, what it means to have, clean insides. And when he does that, it triggers this complete downfall. But as he falls, Leonidas rises, and thus the name of the book is Rise of the King.
Oh, cool! Very cool. Yeah, we should be doing that for our if we have a major supervillain, or if we have any character that's a major character, we should know that background. I was actually talking to one of the editors from Spider-Man, who used to edit Spider-Man, about Spider-Man a few weeks ago, and I was like, I just looked at Spider-Man's origin again, and I'm studying it, and I'm like, he's got like the origin of a supervillain. He's like, what are you saying is supervillain? I'm like, well, look at what happened at the end. Like he's like ruined. He's ruined, and now he's on this quest, to be, he really wasn't much of a hero at the end of the book. There's nothing he really did heroic. He went after, in revenge, he went after that guy who killed his uncle. But he's not a hero really. And what Jim, the editor, Jim Salcro. So what Jim said was, he's like, well, he took responsibility that it was his fault and he felt bad about it. I'm like, all right, that's actually a good point, because if it was going to be a supervillain, you would have seen that maybe one different thing, that maybe he would have been like, instead of saying, oh, it was my fault, how could I have done this? Like what Peter Parker says at the end, he could have said like, I've got to think about how to use my power to get even, or how to get what I want, for me, or a little bit different, but still like the story of Spider-Man could have easily just been like the origin story for a villain, just very minor tweaking, because Peter Parker is just obsessed with
Batman's the same way. I mean, Batman's the same way. You know what I mean? Essentially, his parents get killed. I mean, that's what they did with Metal, DC Metal.
But in
the Dark Underverse, it was all these things where he could, that trauma, right, just pushed him a little too far one way and not enough the other way. And he basically, went into these other directions.
But the one thing that's so different about Spider-Man and Batman's origin, not that uncle's dead versus dad is dead, because they were like parents to him. So that's fine. But the difference is it's Peter's fault that his uncle is dead.
Bruce believes the same thing. I mean, he believes it's his fault that his parents died, because if he wouldn't have got scared, if they wouldn't have left the theater and all these different things, it's the same kind of play. My thing is I'm with you, Adam. I'm not trying to compare the two.
No, not at all. It's very interesting.
The trauma that happens. You know what I'm saying? That's it. And I think that's. I think that's been played with a lot. That again, what's the difference between a villain and a hero? How does the trauma push one way and not the other?
The difference between a villain and a hero really is only what their goals are. And I was thinking about this.
You could say What the difference is how far they're willing to go to achieve their goals. With
Well,
Batman, he has the rule: I won't kill.
Like,
You know what I mean?
SJWs have different visions of what heroes and villains are. Obviously, they
got
very
it
much
backwards.
very
They got it
different.
backwards, man.
Well, it's a question of values, but it's
principles. It's
but
almost like principles. Almost.
But what's interesting is like if you're taking the law into your own hands, you're a vigilante. Now maybe you're a Daredevil or Batman, and you have an understanding with the local police department or something, and okay, that's fine. But it's very easily like you can't resolve any of your differences by calling the police. Like you and me get into a fight with a neighbor, and one of us gets beat up. Like the cops are gonna get involved. But like if Daredevil is gonna fight with, his girlfriend Elektra, or he's gonna fight with Bullseye or something, he's not gonna call the cops. There's no like I'm gonna call the cops and tell on Bullseye. You can't do that. So they're forced to be anti-heroes because there is no system of justice to deal with them. They're forced to act, on their own authority outside the law. So that's another thing to explore with our hero characters. But
that's good stuff, man. It's good
it's a lot of fun. It's very interesting, and I've been finding a lot of cool. I think some unexplored things in there. So we'll see. We're going to have some great stuff coming. All right, guys. I don't want to keep you all night. Everybody, we must sign up for Justice City Chronicles Volume 1. I must. We all must. Jerry Unbound must. Thou who art unhinged must. Even Eric Huffles, the lovely and talented Eric Huffles must.
Yeah, you're right.
We will sign up. We will promote when you launch. We'll do some promo on the stream as well. We'll get on and we'll get the word out, and it'll be a bigger hit than God's hand, even because you already delivered on that first
brother.
one.
Yeah,
it will be. Just keep doing. We just keep doing our thing. We make it happen.
That's right, bro.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, let's wrap it so you guys can get some rest. Great talking to you guys about
thank you again,
about
Adam.
writing. It was a pleasure. All right, we'll see you guys again soon. Guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and I will see you again soon. And if I don't see you, I will miss you. All right, have a great night, everybody.